Hey, what's up, Canada and beyond? Welcome back. It's Friday, August 9th. Do you guys know what's going on in clown world today? Well, our financial whisperer Bryce is back with us again tonight. He got a bit of a break from y'all last week, but he's going to do most of the talking tonight, I promise. But just before we get into that, I just want to take a quick second to give everybody a couple of reminders, guys. LGM.news is an amazing place to plug into your bookmarks to get more than just What's Up Canada. You guys are getting some other premium, authentic journalist products as well there, as far as for shows, both on both sides of the border, and it's just developing. We just relaunched it again, and I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to remember that one. And of course, Substack, guys. Substack is where all the gold is. That's where all the freebies, the receipts, everything that we talk about, all of the details, all of the links, all of the documents, everything that we talk about on this show comes out in a Substack the next morning. It is free to subscribe over there. But I wanted to just take a split second here to talk about last night's guest, specifically David. Wow, the information that about helping us communicate better was so perfectly timed for where we're at in this world right now. And I really encourage everybody, if you only get to watch one show or wants to even only watch one show this week, I encourage you guys to get over to Substack, get that one plugged into your podcast viewing. And last but not least, on behalf of New World Precious Metals, our friend Bryce Wade, to tell us some of what the heck is going on. Bryce, I'll tell you, when I sent you a message on Monday, I could not have seen the roller coaster ride in between Monday and today, and it's just been exponentially confusing. But at the end of the day, I think it's kind of dodged a bullet, but for how long? That's as dumbed down as I can get it, and make sense in my brain. How far out am I?
Yeah, well, there's so much volatility right now, bro. Like, and a couple weeks ago when I did my little presentation about what's coming down the pipeline, I was pretty specific and say I don't know when this is going to happen, but it is going to happen eventually. And there's lots of different indicators that you can look at that prove and show this is the probability. And I'm going to go over some more of them today to show you that this is kind of baked in already. Just like I believe that World War III is basically guaranteed at this point. I'm not going to dive into it deep today, but the trajectory that we're on, right? This is how I try to identify what's coming down the pipeline: is what trajectory are we on? Why are these things happening? What are the things that we can measure and look at right now that tell us and allow us to determine what's coming down the pipeline, right? And just like World War III, we've been put on this path for literally years now. Russia bad, and well, China is bad. They're just absolute lunatics. But the things that are being forced upon us now is like, hey, we're going to go to war with Iran because Israel is our ally, even though we have no connection to them whatsoever. So like these things that are happening everywhere now. So I mean, the UK is basically in a civil war now. That started last week while I was away. Like, go away 1 week and everything freaking collapses, bro.
We were dissecting a lot of that last night. The media, their tactics, defining that, recognizing that, and looking at the damage created by that. And this is, I don't think people always make the connection. We think about the propaganda and the damage and the impact that it has on us as individuals, and we talk about how that makes us feel and those kinds of things. But those things all have a major part to do with economics and where we are going. That's all a part of that looping process that I've been talking, obsessed with this PAR program, Participatory Action Research Program, in the Hegelian dialect, rebranded, renewed. But this kind of stuff. So when we're more jumbled, I think the point I'm trying to make here is the more jumbled and confusing it is for us, the quantify that for the markets, and nobody knows which direction they're going, and everybody's just as messed up and stunned as we are.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, just checking. If I and that happened, when you brought up the UK.
Yeah,
What's going on there? UK is a money center. London is a
yeah.
money center,
It's one of the major money centers on the planet, actually.
right? And so the things that are going down, the cause and effect, and the ripple effects, have the rest of the world going to like, what is going on? This doesn't look good. How does that factor into what we saw this week? Because I guess maybe we should rewind back this week a little bit. Monday kind of came to me, and being kind of creature of habit, it's always been ingrained in my head. If I'm looking to see the trigger coming, the early warning is to watch Japan collapse. Well, get up Monday, and that's what it looked like. um, and so basically the whole world went into cleaning out its underwear for the next 48 hours, but yet it seems to have kind of stabilized. Is this temporary? Is this being propped up for the election? What's going on here, Bryce?
Yeah, so let's just discuss. So put everything else aside for a second, economy wise. Let's just focus on Japan for a second, okay? So there's a couple things that are happening with Japan. One of the major ones is that Japan is the largest the largest, not the second, the largest holder of U.S. national debt. Then they've got like
Right.
2 trillion or 1 trillion and 1.5 trillion, something like that. Some ridiculous amount of money, anyway. And what that means is that what happens with the Japanese economy has a big impact on the economy as a whole worldwide, but on the U.S. economy specifically. And there's a couple reasons for this. So one of the major ones, and one of the reasons that this happened this week, is that there's what's called the yen carry trade. And so what that means basically is that because Japan has had such low interest rates, like they're basically bouncing off of zero and
Uh-oh.
have been for decades. Can you still hear me?
I don't think I can get through a show this week without a technical glitch. Oh, looks like you're back.
Okay, we good?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. So what's happening with the yen right now is that the government last week tried to save the yen because it was being devalued. So they pumped in a whole bunch of money to the yen, which pushed the value up. And so what's been happening with Japan is that a whole bunch of investors from around the world, but in the West specifically, have gone to Japan and borrowed money in Japanese yen because their interest rates are so low. And then they take that and get the yen and transfer that into USD so that they can make an investment in USD. This is called the yen carry trade. And so essentially, what that means is you go and borrow in a low interest rate currency. So you're not paying a lot. Then you take that investment, you can lever it up, so you could get 300% leverage on that or something. Go make an investment, and you could make potentially 3, 4, 5, 10% on your money. Now that's good if there's no problems. So there's problems when there's problems, and one of the problems is that you're exposed to the the exchange rate, the forex trade rate of the currencies. And so what happened basically is that the interest rates in the U.S. Went up, and the value of the U.S. Of the yen went down. And so if your carrying costs go up, so instead of paying 1%, now you're paying 3%. If you're only making 3%, well, now you're not making any money, right? And that
Right.
could be even worse, where your investment that you're making is now not covering your carrying costs, so you're at a negative carry, which means that you're losing money on a daily basis, essentially. And so there was a whole bunch of people that probably felt this and had to sell, which devalued the yen. And so when you saw the yen crash, there's a whole bunch of other knock-on effects of that. And so what we're seeing this week, one of the triggers for that, probably, now I don't know this for sure, but one of the triggers for the stock market decline was probably this carry trade, because the yen plummeted this week. Absolutely. The Nikkei, which is basically the New York Stock Exchange of Japan, fell 12%. That's huge. And that's the first time it's happened since like the 80s.
Yeah, and I think that we're still into that bobbing in the ripples of all of this, and I don't think that we've kind of I don't think we're at yet where it's going to be leveling off here in this. The jobs markets, the economies, now the UK kicking off.
And Venezuela, that happened while I was away too.
Yeah, Venezuela, a whole new rounds of sanctions in Europe against formerly, allied nations in the EU, Georgia, Hungary. Now Italy is striking trade deals with China, and they're getting threatened with sanctions from the EU, and on and on and on and on it goes. I think that the UK is kind of, because it's the smallest petri dish of them all, this is why it is lighting up and erupting first. And what we're seeing there right now is, I think, universally being recognized as to what they're doing, but I don't know if Canadians are connecting that to what is directly coming here. We're watching Bill C-63 live out real time.
Yes.
But it's going to be worse here, even when you get into the lawfare that C-63 enables here in Canada, but by the individuals, it's not even the state. Although, just about an hour before showtime, the UK police departments have had their X accounts deleted for threatening their own citizens. Elon just suspended the UK police accounts.
True
story.
I've really been on the fence about Elon and whether or not he's part of the cool kid crew, because there's lots of evidence that he is. But the fact that he went and sued GARM, and GARM literally disbanded this week,
yes,
I mean, that really blew me away. Yeah, and Rumble and X got together, and Twitter and got together. I mean, that is really impressive, because even though he hired that idiot Yacarino from the WEF as the CEO of Twitter. So if anybody doesn't know, the WEF, I'm sure most of you know about WEF, but the person that he hired to run Twitter in his stead was part of the WEF. And so I never really trusted them in any way, shape, or form. But I mean, to actually sue the organization that had come after Elon and his companies, that's pretty impressive, bro. I did not see that coming. But what was really surprising about that is they're like, oh yeah, they sued us. Okay, well, we shut down. They're like literally the smallest amount of pushback, and they're like, we're done.
I think that's actually one of the genuine triggers of why they're doing this in the UK right now, is because of exactly that lawsuit specifically. GARM was supposed to be the legitimization of the political push to implement the Online Harms Act across Europe, and that's what our Bill C-63 was made upon. And them dismantling that, all of a sudden, that entire European globalist push, they lost their locomotive. Basically, they sabotaged and blew up their own locomotive for implementing the Online Harms Act in Europe. So, the UK government is, they invested a lot into trying to salvage the globalist conquest of the UK and installing Starmer based on plausibility. I think it's questionable as to whether there's legitimacy there, but they're in desperate measures right now, and I think that that's one of the reasons why they need bigger distractions to keep us from catching up to them and actually taking their system apart. But that's just me. And when it comes to Elon, you can't become the Antichrist, the most loved man on earth, unless you do a whole bunch of stuff to win people's favor over first, while you're planning the biggest evil of all afterwards. And I still think Elon is in this race to be the end all be all of AI superintelligence corporate king of the planet at some point. He's going to own the Matrix. Last man standing in Silicon Valley is his angle. So that's just
it's possible. Like I'm still not sold on it one way or the other, because I look at results, and the results so far have been fairly positive, all things considered. And he's been fighting an uphill. He's been fighting an uphill battle against these retards for a long time. So I don't know. Results are really the only thing that matter to me. Like your words really mean nothing at the ultimate when you judge things, because it's what you do and the results from what you do that matter. So you can say I'm the greatest Christian of all time, but if you go and bang somebody else's wife and do all these terrible things, well, you're not the greatest Christian ever, obviously, right? Just as an example, it's not nothing specific about religion. I shouldn't have said that. It's not specifically about Christianity in general, but I'm just making an example, right? But
it's the faux virtue signaling. I mean,
yeah,
and we talked
exactly.
about this last night. The people have invested their entire self-worth, their entire consciousness into an avatar universe that has nothing to do with reality. And I think Elon navigates that better than any person alive. Understanding that what happens online, well, that ain't real, but the consequences in the real world are and can be real, and he takes that deadly serious.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I actually agree with Mountain Man here. I don't fully trust him either. I don't trust basically anybody anymore. Like really can. And this is why you have to judge on do your actions match your words, which is one of the main ways that we determine if somebody is trustworthy. And ultimately, what are the results of those actions? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. So you can have all the good intentions in the world, you still burn the place down. Screw you.
Some other comments here. Stock market's going to crash. Stay tuned. It's inevitable. It's just when. That's basically what we're talking about at this point.
Yeah, so let me touch on that actually, because I want to finish off the stuff about the economy before I move on to the geopolitics. So everybody saw that the stock market crashed a little bit on Monday, right? So basically, what the actual numbers of that are pretty bad. Okay, so the start of the GFC in 2008 was on September 29th, 2008, and the stock market, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which is the Dow Jones Industrial Average, I can barely speak today. So that was basically the barometer of the economy for like the last 100 years. That's what crashed in the Depression 100 plus years ago, right? And or barely, almost 100 years ago. And so compare that to what happened in 2008, and that index dropped 777 points. Okay. So hold that number in your head for a second. So 777, very lucky number for whatever reason. And that marked the beginning of the global financial crisis. And there was a whole bunch of knock-on problems, collapse of the banking system, and a whole bunch of people losing their money and blah, 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 right? That was triggered by real estate problems, right? And so what we have now is a whole host of other problems that haven't even hit the market yet, okay? So this trigger from Japan could have been one of the main reasons for that fall, but the fall in the DJIA, the Dow Jones, was 1,050 points at its worst time during the day. So that's 30% worse than what happened in 2008. And everybody's seen all across all of this news all happening all over the place, but it hasn't really done anything yet, right? But that was the trigger then of the starting of the financial crisis then. Is it now? Probably, but we're not seeing what's happening. We're not seeing the fallout of that yet, because people are working in the background right now. I had a whole bunch of conversations with people talking about gold and silver this week. They're like, I don't trust the bank. The market just crashed. And like, it's something that I've been waiting to talk to people about, because eventually this was going to happen, right? Let me bring up my screen for a second to show everybody the history of the Dow Jones. Okay. And this is only recent. Okay. Because this is important. Let me just share this. This one. This one. There we go. Yeah, okay, there we go. So here, I'll just blow this up a little bit. So right now we're basically at the top, 40,000 points. Where was it in 2008? 12,000. And so the height was 13,000, and it fell down all the way to 8,000, just 7,300. So basically a 50% drop, right? And I've showed this. Where is it? I've shown this before. I'll just put it up over here. So I've shown this before, but like an actual recession / depression, this is what this looks like, right? This is what this looks like. This is what happened in 1929, right? So he had a 90% drop, right? And it took almost 20 years to get back to where it was. right? So when this crash actually happens, with all of the insanely overvalued nonsense we have, all the money sloshing around out there, all of the debt, all of the structural problems, all of the corruption, all the stupid people in stupid positions of power, right? When you put all of that stuff together, what's the trajectory? Is this going to get better or is this going to get worse? And I literally don't have any information for you that says like, yes, this is okay. We got somebody waiting in the wings to fix all these problems. Is Trump going to fix all these problems? I doubt it. Like, is Pierre going to fix all these problems? I doubt it. So the ultimate question to me is, if all of these idiots are crashing our society, and the people that are supposed to be responsible for fixing this stuff aren't doing what they're supposed to do, or can't do anything about it because they're either part of the problem or don't know what to do, what does that leave us? What does that leave us as an option to do?
We have an entire a 300-year-old agenda that's ultimately collapsing under the weight of being exposed as an ineptocracy. The destruction by design through the perspective of looking accidental. Oh, we're just bad at what we do. No, it's by design to put the people in place to be bad at what they do. And these are cookie cutter clone troopers that are created at the World Economic Forum in their Young Global Leader programs, and then disseminated and sent off to do their infiltration agenda through every Strong Mayors program and every lobbyist group, NGO, nonprofit, charity that's connected to every level of governance. And in Canada, they've been exceptionally good at that, where they've been able to turn the economy around on a dime, and almost 50% of it is public sector employed. And so between the public sector and the subsidized private sector, they have pretty much got control of society for implementing the CBDCs and the UBIs. When this all comes apart, is my new conspiracy theory in why they are keeping this alive until they can get that system in order. So to me, this just looks like it's all on life support at this time, in order to maintain the controlled demolition of our country and our economy.
Yeah, 100%. And I actually, so I made this meme because I made this this presentation.
I've been using that and talking about it on a couple of shows this week, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Because this is the ultimate goal, right? And I've talked about a whole bunch too. And the reason for this, right, is if you and I have the ability to live our lives and we don't need anybody else outside our little community, why the hell would we use somebody else's bullshit that is going to give them control over our lives? That makes no sense. And any logical person on the planet would say, screw you, get the hell out of here, right? And so the only way that they can roll out all this stupid bullshit that they want to is by crashing everything that we already have, right? It's the only way. Otherwise, we're going to tell them to kick bricks. What do I need your dumbass for?
Right? Exactly. This is, ultimately they are steering us to that those depths of despair, to ultimately provoke here a manageable crisis that looks like the UK, Ireland, and Venezuela, and all of these financial collapses. The incidental thing about all of these collapses of society are all bankruptcy owed to the same small organizations.
Yeah, exactly. So let me show you just another one of the indicators, because I just actually learned about this pretty recently. So the SOM rule here. So this SOM rule has predicted the recessions with 100% accuracy going back 70 years. So that's what this image is. So this is the employment rate. So this is one of the indicators that you look at for what's happening, right? And so just today or yesterday, it was yesterday or the day before, where they released the employment numbers, right? So the employment rate in the U.S. went up from 4.1 to 4.3%. So it's a 200 basis points increase over the last month. And so what these red lines are showing you is that every time that there was an incline for more than a couple months, is that every time that this happened, there was a recession right after. That's what this is showing. And so near the end of that recession, right? Oh, recession's over, employment goes back down, right? And every time that it goes back up, there's a recession, right? And so what we're looking at right now across all of the other indicators that are happening, the economy is not doing well for a variety of reasons. We're about to face a war. There's famine. There's all sorts of nonsense happening in the commercial real estate market, which I talked about quite a few times actually, but it's still there, and it's still a time bomb waiting to explode. Right, residential mortgages in Canada, most people have to renew this year or next year. I think it's about 60% of all mortgages have to renew in the next 2 years, which means that everybody that can't will either give their house back or they'll be homeless. Which means all of that excess, what do you call it? Excess supply on the market will push down prices, because if I can't make these payments, well, I got to sell. Well, somebody's got to buy, and they're not going to buy at your value when everybody's selling at the same time, and I can get anything I want, right? So it'll be a seller's market that will depress the price of real estate.
Yeah. In I think it was today's news, 25,000 jobs lost again in Canada this month. And meanwhile, while nobody's looking, another 130,000 new Canadians coming to Canada per month. There's this is getting darker by the day for John Q. Canadian, and we're falling, I don't blame people for falling into this angry, bitter, hopeless sentiment. But and I can't change people's emotions, but we have to be able to find, the things that we can agree upon and build on that, because this is triage. That is what triage is. The most critical things you need to do to sustain life. And right now, I think that this is where we have to take our control of our own destiny, not from, and I'm not saying revolution, but I'm saying triage, to prepare for what, we might have a brief window of respite on this, but given the pattern, the history, the cycle, 4 years ago, election, pandemic, election theft, distraction, Afghanistan pullout, Ghislaine Maxwell, endless crises to in order to maintain control of things. And we're heading directly into that same path here again. WHO calling for more crackdowns, more lockdowns. Now it's the MPOX, the same wash, rinse, repeat. But we're better prepared, I think, to deal with the propaganda and the abuse, the psychological abuse from the state. That's going to be exactly the same. But I'm worried about the people that are just ultimately going to give up. And they saw what happened when they resisted last time, and they got to do it over again. This is where it's going to get scary.
Yeah, and that's coming. And what I'm showing everybody here is this is what happens when you're in what's called a doom loop. And China is in this right now. And one of the reasons that I follow China so closely, not only because they're the second biggest economy, but they're also the biggest threat, one of the biggest threats to humanity, because of how terrible they are as a society. And the communism that they have is infecting the whole planet right now. And they're being used as probably the blunt force instrument to control everybody else. So for the last 70 years, the U.S. military was essentially that blunt force instrument of control for a majority of the planet. But they're stepping back, and they're in a mighty amount of decline because of all the corruption and stupidity that goes on in the U.S. And so I think it's really important that everybody understands that this point is very, very important. Okay, if the U.S. ever falls, the whole planet falls with them, because the power vacuum to replace them is essentially China and all of the Eastern authoritarians. And we definitely don't want a world run by these freaking communist losers. And so even though I detest a lot of the stuff that's happening, both in the US and the US government in general, the fact is that the country of the United States still has a constitution that regulates all of their laws. We don't even have that anymore because Trudeau's pissed it away so much. But it's those minimums, the it's not even a good word for it. The Constitution itself is probably the greatest document that's ever been created, and only a small portion of the planet falls under it. Luckily, most of the international corporations supposedly have to follow this stuff too, but because of corruption and the oligarchy and all the other nonsense, they don't. But like, that's still, having a standard is still better than having no standard of other than might mates right, because that's how the rest of the world works. Hey, give me your shit. No, boom. That's how most of the world works. And it's only because we've been insulated from all of that nonsense for so long that we've become so weak, right? And now that is starting to break down. And kind of where I was going with this is, I've posted this, probably hundreds of times by now, but this is what's happening, right? Why invade a country when you can just buy its institutions, turn its women against its men, make transvestites of its children, sell the wealth generated by its labor to foreign investors, then introduce a foreign army as refugees and diversity to finish it off? That's what's happening all over the West right now. It's happening in Canada, the US, Britain, Europe, everywhere. They're literally creating the conditions for a guaranteed civil war, which is going to be part of what is actually World War III, which is actually a war against humanity. Because the ultimate goal of World War III is this. This is the ultimate goal. Everything that is happening right now is for the purpose of this. And then you got absolute dipshits like this guy, which is Yuval Harari, this idiot from the WEF. He wrote a whole book about Sapiens, which basically goes through, oh wow, humanity is so terrible, we should just end them all. At least the useless eaters. The useless eaters. That's this guy. That's literally his words, right? And so, yep.
I just want to pull up this graphic here because it was such an amazing representation of exactly what for our American friends, take and steal this graphic, and on the left is constitutional republic, which you are, and on the right is democracy, which Canada is. And it doesn't get any more clear than this. You can have a society ruled by a law where individualism is protected, or you can have a rules-based society that is ruled by the mob of convenience at any point in time that they should decide your fate. The international rules-based order, not an international law-based order,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah.
Yeah. And so there's an old saying that I like, that is, you get what you tolerate. You get the government that you deserve. You get the government that you voted for, right? Our society in Canada, right? And I know there's a lot of people here that are not in Canada, but Canadian culture for a long time and Canadian society for a long time was really built around the idea of collaboration, right? And being played in collaboratory, right? It's kind of the thing that I took as being Canadian, which was different from everybody else in the West. We were here together, we're here to work together, right? There was competition within that, but the ultimate goal is that we're working together, right? Now, we were very lucky and very unusual in human history that we didn't have to war with everybody around us to survive, because we were so vastly rich in our natural resources, right? We had all the energy that we wanted. We were totally self-sufficient. Then globalism came around and screwed all that up. Putting that aside for a second, we were very lucky that we were insulated from kind of world history by 3 oceans and the biggest military in human history. So we literally cared about nothing. No fear, no fear whatsoever about anything, really, right? And why I'm showing this is that you really have to understand, you have to put this in your head and kind of come to terms with this, that there is evil in the world, right? I'm an atheist, okay? I don't believe in a higher power. I don't care. I care what happens in reality, right? But it doesn't matter to me that there's no God. There's still there's still evil people that are doing evil things, right? I want our species, our civilization, to be as good as possible for as many people as possible. Go into the stars, explore the stars, be a fantastic utopia, if you want to call it that, right? But what we're being pushed into is a dystopia of the most horrific nonsense you can even imagine. And this is one of the many, many examples, the Georgia Guidestones, of there are people out there that want to murder you and your family, whoever that is. Doesn't matter, like, who you are on the other side of the screen is irrelevant, right? We are all in the same position on this planet, in this society, at this time, is that we have to survive. We have to survive what's coming, right? And there are people that don't want you to survive, and more importantly, they want to enslave you if you do. So,
Well,
yep,
if you talked about China perhaps ruling us, or Russia perhaps ruling us. The more likely scenario, in my opinion, is these guys are here to rule us. This was our guest on Wednesday, Bryce, was in Montreal and literally recorded these people of this problem that's now all over Canada, recorded them, and they're openly saying this. They're saying it now in the mosques, that if we don't support and take up their cause, we are to be slaughtered too. No
yep,
maybes about it. So this is what it's like. This is a reality check time, guys. You may not be Christian. It doesn't matter. This is what your options are. It's living with Christians, living with under CCP rule, living under Putin, or communism, and it wouldn't be like Putin's communism, or what I just showed you. These are our options. So I think people needs to
theocracy.
get off of their high horses, and anybody, it doesn't matter at this point. Again, this comes down to the framing. We can find these wedge issues to argue and fight about: is God real, is the earth flat? Get your heads out of your freaking asses, because this is a reality we are staring down, not just a double-barreled shotgun out, but a triple-barreled shotgun out of, if we don't get our shit together and put all of that away. We can squabble about that later if we get rid of the WEF Fourth Reich, but never again is right freaking now.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And yeah, no, I fully agree. And I think you make a good point about the answer to all this, which is the answer to all globalization is localization. Everybody here, everybody that watches this, you live in a community, right? That community is under attack, regardless of how big that community is. If it's 12 people or 1,200 or 12,000 or 12 million, there's a group of people on this planet that wants to enslave and destroy you and your family. So what are you going to do about that? What are we going to do about that? How are we going to stop that problem from happening and coming to fruition? They have planned this for decades, if not centuries, right? And
Centuries.
yeah, exactly. And I say that, and I don't say that lightly, right? So if you accept that these things are true, that there are people that are trying to attack you and trying to destroy your life, there's no other word for that than a war, right? And so you have to get into this mindset of somebody is trying to attack you, because it's the only way that you can get the internal fire necessary to defend yourself, right? And what's happening all across the West right now, as people have been lulled into a false sense of security for decades, right? Longer than I've been alive, this has been happening, right? Longer than Wayne's been alive, this has been happening. And so we're getting down to the end game, and they have told us 2030 is their time. That's the delineation when all of this sustainable development goals, all the other dumb shit that they want to do is going to be implemented. That means that in 2024, we've got no more than 6 years to figure it out, and that's being generous, right? So when the economy collapses, what is that going to do to everybody's pocketbook, right? What is that going to do to your family, and how you're able to live and function in society? It's going to hurt it a lot, because every time that this happens throughout history, all of the rich people are fine. Just buy more stuff, whatever, right? They already have everything they need. But the people that are living paycheck to paycheck, that are not well suited to this, that are not ready for this, they get destroyed. It's happened every single time throughout history. And the only way that you survive is through two things: preparing for it and having a community that can support you. So you have to build that community. Otherwise, what are you going to have? If every single person around you in your building literally has no food, they're going to come kick your door down and get your food, right? So on top of you having to put a boundary up around yourself that says, no, this is mine and you can't step any further, you can't survive this alone. You literally can't. Our society is too specialized into various different things. You cannot do it alone. The only way that works is if you go into the wilderness and have a cabin somewhere. And even then, that only allows you to survive. That's not your family. That's not your society. That's not your civilization. And that's certainly not our species.
So I want to touch on a couple of comments here as it relates to exactly this one here, and I'm kind of obsessed with this week, especially with what's going on in Toronto. They shut down all of the tramways in Toronto because there wasn't enough mosques for them. There wasn't enough other places for them. They had to prey on the tramways in downtown Toronto today and really disrupt traffic. And this is one of those things that Canadians, good-natured, naive Canadians, don't understand the difference between Muslims and Islamists and radical, and that is the difference. The regular normal Muslims, they're at the mosque praying. The ones that want to piss on your leg and treat you like property, they're down in downtown Toronto, disturbing traffic and creating a scene.
Yep.
Significant difference. And on that, the comment here that I really wanted to address, Carly, is I know that this is a popular belief, but I think it's more than that. Religion is different than faith. We have faith and beliefs, and those are typically traditionally based, culturally based. They're a way to bring our communities together to understand the supernatural things that we cannot explain with that which we know. Organized religions were organized to control societies because it was easier and cheaper than having standing armies and soldiers, which is where we are basically right now. So they have destroyed religions, the things that allowed society to govern itself and evolve and reform over time. To suit the needs and the social contract of the society. That's where there's a significant difference in my opinion. But at the end of the day, none of it's going to matter. Exactly right, Mountain Man. When tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty. 100%. But how we choose to engage in that rebellion is going to determine the body count if there ultimately is one, and what that price will be. But we have to be willing to take the risks first and foremost. And Canadians aren't. They haven't got enough of a reality check. And I'm hoping that what they're seeing in the UK right now brings them a lot of that reality check. Now, China and Russia, the people are not our enemies. Absolutely no. But trade, politics, business is trillions of dollars of things. Business and deals, it's all about the money. If you can show people a path to the profit that doesn't involve war and total destruction and annihilation, no, then people can be friends and they don't have to be enemies. There's different levels and context to all of that. And Esky Dogs, I could not agree with you more. Churches need to start to wake up and start talking to their church members about what's going on in the world today from a real perspective. My experience with this is our churches, if they're allowed to be charities, they are told what they can and cannot speak from the pulpit. So you might want to talk to them about their finances at each of the churches as to why they are neutered at the pulpit, kind of like our military at this point, right?
They're also
So
being burned down.
I'm not looking for cannibal cookbooks, Mevo, but I am looking for the first author of the TP special cookbook. How many different ways can you make soup out of toilet paper? Uh, Bryce, this one's for you. I enjoy listening to Bryce, but it's so damn depressing. That's the sad part about the reality right now, and
Yeah.
why people spend their lives on the internet in that delusion that, feeding that crack of feel good, sunshine, lollipops, warm cup of cocoa, warm fuzzy blanket, have a donut. No, you don't get that here. Sorry, guys. We try not to be crazy, but go ahead, Bryce.
Yeah, so a big reason that we're facing this right now, though, is because we didn't have the responsibility and accountability of our government and our society for the last 30 odd years. I've been watching this happen in slow motion for 30 years. I'm 38 now. I noticed this pretty early. I didn't do as much as I should have. I'm doing more now because I feel obligated to, because I was sick of being silent. But it takes actions, right? Like these people have been doing this for centuries, right? It's an oligarchy, right? That means that there's a small group of people and that are in control of stuff, and they're using our systems and institutions that are supposed to be for us against us, right? And the only reason they're allowed to do that or able to do that is because we don't hold them accountable, right? And you have to make up for lost time now, right? I stopped beating around the bush, and I stopped censoring myself for other people, right? I see evil in the world. You see evil in the world. What are we going to do about it? Nobody is going to come save us, right? That is the ultimate truth. You have to be a part of the solution, right? The old saying of Gandhi, which is like, be the change that you want to see in the world. Well, I'm sick of being lied to. I'm sick of listening to these frickin' retards lie to us on a daily basis that say absolute lies that have no connection to reality whatsoever, and it's literally just propaganda and malinformation and disinformation, whatever stupid shit whatever dumb word they use these days. But the ultimate point is that we have to be a part of the solution and build something different, and the only way that you can do that is by working with other people.
Now, I want to address this again from a different color of crayon. It's not about religion, it's about faith. And if you want to put it into that box of specifically religion, I'll put it in this box. We are intrinsically hardwired for a belief system, whether it is Buddhism, whether it is Islam, whether it is Christianity, whether it is a cult, of any flavor that you want to pick. There has been thousands of religions. I'm talking about a higher faith. And in our society, we have Christianity that we've built our society on as a functioning society. Look around the planet and see if there's a better one. And then come back and talk to me if you have a problem with living in a Christian society. So this isn't a church channel. This isn't a church page, but it absolutely, if we can't get even a basic acceptance on that, we're fucking doomed.
Yeah.
I hate to put it that way.
Yeah, and even as and even as an atheist, I still agree with that. Like, it's very clear that of the religions that you have the option to be a part of, what are the results that you find in those societies that choose those religions? There's really only two that did positive, and the reason that Christianity was so bad for so long is because it was ruled by the oligarchy, right? You had an area of control, like we called the Dark Ages, which was essentially Christendom, for years, because they had total control of everybody. There's a way that was one of the reasons and one of the ways they controlled everybody, because you had essentially no accountability to people in positions of power. They could be like, this guy's a heretic, and boom, burn him at the stake. That was it. There's no accountability there, right? So we've advanced to the idea that we have a secular rule of law, that everybody is equal under the eyes of the law, which is obviously not true. So it's failed as well, right? And what my point in this is that regardless of what fuels your fire for what you believe and how you believe and how you choose to live your life, the most important thing of whatever that is how you show up in the world and what effect you have in the world, right? It's all fine and good to say, I believe this thing, but if you don't embody that thing and you don't cause that thing in the world, do you really believe it, right? And we're supposed to have these, I'll make this one last point. And we're supposed to have the ability to work together. Like, I stand shoulder to shoulder with every Christian out there, every Muslim out there that is against this bullshit that's happening to our society and our civilization. It does not matter to me what you believe in your head. It matters to me what you do and how you act and what effects you have in the world around you, right? It does not matter if we're religious or atheist or whatever. It doesn't matter. It matters how we show up in the world.
And right now, I'm not arguing the fact as to whether, religion is a control mechanism. You're absolutely damn skippy it is. And right now we have competing ones. We have radical political Islam or globalism. Both meet the definition of religions, which are governed from the top on down, one by Muhammad and one by Klaus. Or Christianity, which is a self-governing religion at heart, or a faith at heart, which, if you want to look at the context of a man's character and decide who you want to stand on the front line with to defend our nation, sorry, Mr. Globalist, sorry, Mr. Islamist, that you're not there. You just don't meet that exceptional standard. People, they don't understand what drives me in doing what I do in all of this insanity. I don't want any of this. I didn't ask for any of this, but it is that self-governing moral code that comes from my deep inherent faith. And that is, I'm not saying sorry, PDS. For those that are offended, I guess I'm saying sorry about your luck. This is a problem within you that you need to address and stop making me the enemy we get attacked every time I bring up this subject. And it's like, whose side are you really on? If you want to come at people like us, you exactly in your case, Bryce, you're an atheist. You're here defending exactly the same statements that I'm making, because the real world cause and effect is going to get us all killed if we don't put this shit away. That's like the Olympics, the epitome of evil, of pure evil, and deviance on the planet, where Iran and Russia did a better job of defending our faith and beliefs than any of our own damn leadership did anywhere here in the West. They all clapped like performing seals, just like they did for the Nazis. So these are the things that we need to get over and get figured out pretty damn skippy, because there is no good news coming in the news anytime soon if we don't start to figure some of that shit out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry for being so emotional, because I typically I try to be the most level-headed guy in the room, but sometimes it just gets away.
Yeah, hey, well, I mean, this is what's real. Like that saying, "Oh, you shouldn't talk about sex, religion, or politics." Well, screw that's all the good stuff in the world, bro.
That's how we got here.
Yeah,
By being, by not being able to talk about those things. Oh, that's verboten. You can't talk about that. You can't talk that. You can't. Well, before long, if you can't talk about any of those things, and all you have is a megaphone piping into your head what you're supposed to be thinking, this is exactly the disaster that gives us the disaster that we're under, right where the World Economic Forum Fourth Reich wants us: dazed, confused, stunned, shell-shocked, incapable of defending ourselves, and an entire protection and governance system has been neutered. In the America's case, I'll tell you what, America, you guys are the ones I really pray for, because your enemies, your mortal enemies in the world, have got the best ambush position on you that they will ever have. And nobody wants to talk about the disaster in Canada and the United States from a legitimate and serious threat level, because I'll tell you what, your blind side in America is going to come through Canada, not Mexico.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they opened up the borders. I mean, like it's kind of intentional. This is why, like
but the best of the evil ones are flying here into Canada, getting their tickets punched, while they are getting restored their R&R in Lake Cabin country, preparing for what we're seeing on our streets, which is a very legitimate call. And they are serious when they say, if they come across us and we are not in support of them and the clapping seals, we will be slaughtered too. This is real shit.
Yeah, it is, and this is why I try to impart on you and everybody that watches me on a regular basis is that this is not a game. Like, I call it a game sometimes, getting wise to the game, but this is not a game. This is a game of survival, right? In no other time in history has the whole of our civilization, Western civilization specifically, been threatened in the way that it is right now, right? And the only thing that is going to prevent it from happening, because it's already on the way to happening, is if we get together and we say, that's it, no more, enough is enough, you're done, it's over, get the fuck out, and that's it, right? That's the only thing that they fear, is us getting organized and saying, that's it, you're done, you're gone. And that's it. There's nothing else that they fear, because they control everything else, right? We are being used as pawns for their game to achieve their goals. They're stealing our money. Justin Trudeau is such an unbelievable moron that he either is, well, he is a puppet. There's no either there. He is a puppet, but he's either such an absolute moron that he just doesn't know what he's doing, or he's so evil that he's intentionally doing it. I happen to think it's the latter rather than the former. However, he's still destroying our country and our civilization by his incompetence and corruption, right? Why don't we have a mechanism to get rid of these idiots, right? Why doesn't our democracy have the ability to get rid of people that are destroying it? Because it was designed that way, right? And this is something that pisses me off about the conservatives to no end. They don't talk about any of this. They don't talk about war. They don't talk about the
totally being
collapse.
gamed. We're totally being gamed. We've got the PPC, which is a party that won't have a leadership election, will never ever in its lifetime consider merging with the collective, or original conservative party. So we've automatically got a split that'll keep us tribal in perpetuity. One saying the populist thing, but will never hold office because he never has, will never have the support of the meat muppet string pullers that keep the lie alive. And if you're not going to swear an oath to the globalists, you're never going to hold power in Canada. So we've got Pierre, who is absolutely blatantly lying to Canadians until he says, no, he will not remove us from the Paris Accords. So at the end of the day, so long as we give any of these parties oxygen, we are the reason why why Justin is the dictator and tyrant with 29% of the vote.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and this is why my ultimate point is always the same: the system's broken. We either have to build another one or break it down and redo it again. There's really no other option, because the only other option that you have is submit for slavery, and I'm not going to do that. Screw that shit.
If we don't boycott all of the parties until they actually address us, then there is no even sniff of a hope of a political resolution. And that's the part that I find so disturbing and infuriating. The instant I try to address this in the public and try to hold Pierre to feet to the fire and answer Canadians, well, then I've got every PPC member thinking that I'm automatically endorsing Max and I should get on the Max bandwagon because I said something bad about the PPC or about the Conservatives. And it's the same. And all of a sudden, so the people see, well, oh, you're calling out the PPC and the Conservatives. Oh, well, you must be NDP. Or, they force you into this box instead of having the guts to look at the reality of a problem within our political class. And as long as we keep playing this circle jerk, we're never going to have anything more than playing Russian roulette. And unfortunately, the only party that is not contractually already contractually obligated to the UNSDA and the Migration Compact, which is guaranteed until 2050, exactly 100% more of exactly the same of what we've got, is at the federal level that anybody actually knows about. And I'm not saying that there isn't other parties out there, but the only ones that are recognizable are exactly those four. And they're all a freaking joke. And no wonder the rest of the world is looking at Canada and going, "No, you're not a serious country. There is nothing there. We're just going to keep our money over here, invest in BRICS and China and Russia while you implode and self-destroy yourself, and then we're just going to come over and take what you got."
Yeah, and again, this is why the ultimate question is very simple: what are we going to do about it?
Yeah,
that's the ultimate question,
exactly.
my friends.
Back to the only effective cure for globalism is 100% localism. That's the 100% safe and effective cure for all of that, and getting prepared for it all. And I guess I'm going to pull this up one more time. We've had some people asking me some different questions, and genuinely, guys, I've been getting some emails, which is great. I love to hear back from you guys on some of this stuff, and I'm glad that you've got questions. You're thinking about it, but I'm no financial expert, and the best thing that I can tell you to do is go to my website, click on the link. It's not going to cost you anything. You'll be able to talk. You'll start probably talking with Warren, but they will absolutely be able to answer every question that you have as far as for your retirements, your savings, your investments for gold and for silver, all of those things. You find the link on my website. Last thoughts for the end of this ranting tirade that I've been on tonight. I don't know what's got me triggered, but 100% Nana Sue, you get it. We need to do an Iceland 100%.
Well, they ultimately failed at that, but we'll put that aside.
Well, they had their chance. And that's freedom. That's freedom. Yeah. They decided. They made a very poor decision based on influences. But yeah, that's our opportunity. Oop, I didn't do that. No, you can't eat gold, but when our currency collapses, gold is going to be the only currency they'll accept from you. That wasn't me.
Yeah. Sorry, it was me. My tab died. But so for final thoughts, let me just do two quick things. Well, maybe not quick, but two things anyway. and show you one thing. So like the thing that I like to show people is, and Michelle, this is for you. Okay, so this picture kind of encapsulates the only option that you have if you want to defeat this bullshit, which I hope we all do. Like, it doesn't matter about your political leanings, doesn't matter about your religiosity, it doesn't matter about any of that shit. We're all on the same plane. We're all playing the same game of survival, right? The only way that you can survive what's coming is by organizing with other people and being prepared for people to come kick your door in and be like, hey, you're not kicking my door in, bro. Get the fuck out, right? Because that's what it's going to come down to. All of human history and all of nature itself relies on this one rule: the strongest survive. If you are not strong, you don't survive. So be strong and survive. Right? And that is what you have to do. Now, to the second point of you can't eat gold, you're goddamn right, right? So I'll say this probably ad nauseum. So for those of you who've heard it, I'm sorry. But for those of you who haven't, there's only 4 ways that you can make a transaction. And that's barter, number 1. 2 is some sort of physical intermediary. We use gold and silver throughout history because it's rare and valuable that we determine it is, right? 3rd was fiat, which is basically debt or usury, to quote Mivo. And 4th is digital currencies, which is central bank digital currencies and cryptocurrencies. Those are the only 4 ways that you can do a transaction. So, like whoever that person was that said that, you cannot eat gold, Jania, you're right. So get the resources that you need now when they're still available and they're cheap. I tell everybody every single time I talk to a client, go and get the resources that you would buy with gold now before you invest in gold and silver. I am here not to sell gold and silver to you, but to help you prepare for what's coming, because what I've been seeing coming for literally decades. Gold and silver is one of the few ways that you have to protect your wealth. That's not going to protect you as a person. So whatever you are going to go and buy with gold and silver, whatever resources you have now, go and do it now, because you're running out of time to do so. Eventually, we're going to be at war with China, and whatever comes from China isn't going to be here. Do you have a couple pair of boots? Do you have rain gear? Do you have like this shit that actually allows you to survive? If you don't, go get it now, right? And after you've gotten all of the resources that you need, then talk about the long-term longevity of your portfolio or whatever. I talked to lots of people. I talked to a couple of people this week that have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. They're concerned about the economy just like everybody else is, right? And I'm like, hey, I don't want to put all of my money into gold and silver, but I don't want to be in the banks, and I don't trust the government. Well, how many options do you have if it's not physically in your hand or in gold and silver? Not many, right? So whenever I tell you, go and get resources first before you even think about gold and silver, I'm telling you the truth. I'm not here just to make money. I'm here to prepare my civilization and my society for the inevitability of what's coming. And what is coming is bad times.
100%. 100%. You nailed it. All right, buddy. Till next week. All right, guys. Some of the stuff that he was mentioning there, I don't have money. I don't have money in the bank. I don't have any, but I have things that I've been starting to prepare slowly and incrementally. We've been talking about how to fortify communities in our tactical civics programs. We're going to be having another one, not this coming Saturday. I believe the next Saturday we'll get that scheduled up. There's all kinds of different things that we can do. I don't want people thinking that there's nothing that we can do. There's always something that we can do 100%. So we can only do so much in an hour, right? And there's way too much for me to even cover in 5 hours a week, or 6 or 7 that it ultimately usually ends up being. But yeah, so there's lots to talk about, lots that we can do, lots more that we can all do, whether we believe it or not. And some of those things, I'm going to be doing something this coming week that we'll be talking about on the tactical civics gathering next Saturday. I'm going to do a little bit of a video and show you guys some of the stuff that I've prepared and that I'm doing for just to be safe, right? To be strong. I will not be an easy target. All right, guys. Thank you guys for being here again. I hope you guys had an amazing week. Man, we covered a lot of ground this week. Some amazing shows. 3 awesome guests. present show included there with Bryce. But the conversation last night with Daniel or with David was so profound. I've been hearing for years. I cannot reach my family. I cannot connect them. I don't know how to get through them. I don't know how to talk to them. They all hate me. Last night is the answer to that, guys. Go get plugged in. You buy the course, buy the program. And I want to tell you this too. If your choice this month is between sending somebody like me $10 or going and getting that program, go get that program. Go get plugged into David's program. You can find that on my Substack right there below. And if you have an email to send me or a story, whistleblower, any of those kinds of things, this is where you send it to. And as I say all the time, we are on the tip of the spear of an information war. If there are journalists and people that you trust that are in the fight, you're going to find different causes coming at you every single day, a dozen of them that are going to be looking for your help, your support, your funding. But it's the journalists that do it from the heart that probably need it the most and are the worst at asking for the help. So if you have a journalist that you trust and is your go-to to keep you sane and informed in this crazy world, support them. If this is the platform that is your go-to and that you trust and you want to help me stay in the fight and keep fighting for everybody, this is the only thing I hate about doing what I do is having to do this. And I guarantee you that is the separator between the people that are doing it from the heart or are doing it from a business model. They're going to do their best to bring you the people that are doing it for the right reasons, like Bryce. Yes, we know where to get the gold, but we're not here to sell you the gold. So on that note, what a crazy week. I love you guys all. Stay mighty. Stay strong, my fellow patriots and hostages. Enjoy your weekend. Summer's running short up here in Canada. It's getting even shorter. So, yeah, we will see you all Monday for From the Roots. And 3 days of guests. That means there's a lot of stuff backed up. So there will be some disturbing truth bombs, I'm sure, for everybody on Mondays. We'll see you then. Bye for now.